The air in Terminal 2E at Charles de Gaulle Airport was freezing. Or maybe it was just me. Maybe it was the ice in my veins spreading outward from the center of my chest, where my heart used to be before my father decided to reach in and crush it. I stood near the check-in counter, my hands trembling by my sides. People rushed past me, happy families dragging trunky suitcases, couples holding hands, business travelers checking their watches. They all had a destination. They all had a ticket. I had nothing. 30 minutes ago, I was Savannah Brooks, the dutiful daughter. The one who paid for this family bonding trip to Paris because Mom said she needed to see the Eiffel Tower before her arthritis got too bad. The one who had planned every dinner, booked every museum, and translated every menu because nobody else bothered to learn a word of French. Now, I was just a ghost standing on the polished gray tiles. It started with a notification on my sister Tiffany's phone. We were in line for security. She handed me her phone to hold while she retied her bootlaces. It lit up. A credit card alert. Payment declined, Sephora Champs-Élysées. Over limit. Then another one. Payment declined, Louis Vuitton. Over limit. I looked at her. Tiffany, why are you using the emergency card for handbags? That was the match that lit the fuse. Tiffany, 32 years old but acting like a petulant teenager, snatched the phone back. God, Savannah, why are you always such a warden? It's just a bag. Dad said it was fine. I turned to my father, Richard. He was adjusting his glasses, refusing to meet my eyes. Dad? That card is for emergencies. It's linked to my savings account. The one for the house repairs. Don't start drama here, Savannah, my mother, Deborah, hissed, looking around as if I were the one causing a scene. Your sister deserves nice things. You know she's been having a hard time since Carter lost his job. Again. I work 60 hours a week, I said, my voice rising despite my best efforts to keep it steady. I pay your mortgage. I paid for this trip. And now you want me to clear $20,000 of debt Tiffany racked up in 3 days. No. Absolutely not. The silence that followed was heavy. It wasn't the silence of contemplation, it was the silence of executioners deciding which blade to use. You're being selfish, my father said. He didn't shout. He used that disappointed, heavy tone he knew crippled me. We raised you better than this. Money is just paper, Savannah. Family is everything. If you can't help your sister, maybe you don't belong in this family right now. I thought it was a bluff. A cruel, manipulative bluff. I crossed my arms. I'm not transferring the money. Not this time. My mother sighed, a long, tragic sound. Give me your passport, Savannah. And your phone. I need to scan the boarding passes all together at the kiosk. Like an idiot, like a conditioned, desperate to please idiot, I handed them over. I was so used to fixing things, so used to facilitating their lives. They went to the counter. I waited by the security barrier, guarding the luggage. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. I saw them talking to the agent. My father pointed back at me, then shook his head. The agent typed something. My mother took the boarding passes. Then they started walking. Toward security. Away from me. Hey! I called out, dragging a suitcase. Wait! My father turned around. He looked at me with a coldness that I will never, ever forget. It was the look you give a stranger who asks for spare change. We canceled your ticket, Savannah, he said. The refund will go toward Tiffany's bill. You can find your own way home. Maybe the time alone will help you reflect on your selfishness. You have my passport, I stammered. And my phone. Consider them collateral, Tiffany smirked, waving my iPhone like a trophy. Don't worry, I'll post the pictures for you. And they left. Just like that. They walked through the security gates. My mother didn't look back. My father didn't hesitate. They disappeared into the restricted area, leaving me stranded in a foreign country with no ID, no money, and no way to call for help. I tried to chase them. Security stopped me. "Mademoiselle, you cannot pass without a boarding pass," the guard said sternly. "My parents," I choked out, tears finally spilling over. "They took it. They took everything." "Then you must go to the police outside. You cannot stay here. You are blocking the flow." I backed away, hyperventilating. The world spun. The noise of the airport became a deafening roar. I had helped Fortune 500 companies navigate prairie disasters. I was a crisis manager. I fixed things for a living. But I couldn't fix this. I sank onto a hard plastic bench, burying my face in my hands, sobbing so hard my ribs ached. I was 39 years old, and I was an orphan. "Excuse me." The voice was deep, smooth, and distinctly American. I didn't look up. I couldn't bear for anyone to see me like this. "I believe you dropped this." A pristine white handkerchief appeared in my peripheral vision. It smelled of sandalwood and expensive scotch. I looked up. Standing there was a man who looked like he had just walked out of a GQ photo shoot. Charcoal three-piece suit, tailored to perfection. A Patek Philippe watch that cost more than my car glinted on his wrist. He was older, maybe mid-40s, with steel-gray eyes that were currently studying me with intense calculation. "I didn't drop anything," I whispered, my voice thick with misery. "I have nothing to drop." He sat down next to me. Not too close, but close enough that his presence created a shield against the staring crowd. "I saw what happened," he said quietly. "At the check-in desk. Your family, they have a unique definition of love." The validation hit me harder than the cruelty. I hiccuped a sob. "They left me. They took my passport." "I know," he said. He glanced at his watch, then back at me. "My name is Sterling Vance. And I have a proposition for you." I wiped my eyes, confusion cutting through the grief. I don't have money to pay you." "I don't need money, Savannah." He knew my name. He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. The air around him felt charged, dangerous but safe, like the eye of a storm. "My driver is about to arrive at the VIP curb," he said, his eyes locking onto mine. "Pretend you're my wife. Walk out of here with me. Get in the car." "What?" I pulled back slightly. "Why?" He smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was a smile of sharp edges and cold resolve. "Because," he said, looking toward the security gate where my family had vanished, "I need someone who understands betrayal. And you, Savannah, you look like you're ready to burn the world down." He stood up and offered me his hand. "Trust me," he added, his voice low and lethal. "They'll regret this." I looked at his hand. Then I looked at the empty terminal where my family had abandoned me. Something inside me snapped. The crying stopped. I took his hand. The leather seats of the Gulfstream G650 were softer than my bed back in Brooklyn. The cabin smelled of fresh leather and filtered oxygen. Outside the oval windows, the Atlantic Ocean was a dark abyss, thousands of feet below. I sat across from Sterling Vance, holding a crystal tumbler of amber liquid that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. My hands had finally stopped shaking, replaced by a strange, vibrating numbness. "Drink," Sterling said, not looking up from his tablet. "It's 40-year-old single malt. It helps with the shock." I took a sip. Fire and velvet slid down my throat. "You kidnapped me," I said. It wasn't an accusation, just a statement of fact. "I rescued you," he corrected, tapping the screen. "And technically, you walked onto my jet of your own free will. I just expedited your passport issue with the consulate." Money has a way of smoothing out bureaucracy. I looked down at the temporary travel document sitting on the table between us. He had made one phone call, and within 20 minutes, a man in a suit had met us at the private hangar with the papers. Why? I asked again. You said you needed a wife. You can hire a model. An actress. Why me? Why a sobbing mess at Terminal 2E? Sterling finally set the tablet down. He removed his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. He looked tired. Not physically exhausted but soul-weary. Because actresses act, he said. They overdo it. They try to sell the romance. I don't need romance, Savannah. I need a partnership. I need someone who can stand next to me at a gala and look at a room full of sharks without blinking. I watched you at the airport before you broke down. You were managing your family. You were organized, authoritative, sharp. You handled the logistics, the translation, the luggage. You're a manager. I'm a crisis manager, I corrected automatically. I handle corporate PR disasters. Exactly, he pointed a finger at me. And right now, my life is a PR disaster waiting to happen. He stood up and walked to the bar, pouring himself a refill. My wife died 2 years ago. Since then, my brother, Julian, has been circling the CEO chair like a vulture. He's spreading rumors that my grief has made me unstable. That I'm unfit to lead Vance Global. Our stock dropped 4% last week because of a blind item in the Post about me wandering the streets alone. He turned to face me. I need stability. I need a respectable, intelligent woman on my arm for the upcoming gala and the board meeting next month. Someone who looks like she can keep me in check. Someone real. And what do I get? I asked. The old Savannah would have been grateful just for the ride home. The new Savannah, the one forged in the ice of the airport terminal, was calculating the cost. I get you home, Sterling listed. I provide you with a place to stay, my penthouse has a guest wing. I give you a new phone, a new wardrobe, and legal protection against whatever your family tries next. That's not enough, I said. The words surprised me. Sterling raised an eyebrow. He looked intrigued. My family didn't just leave me, I said, my voice gaining strength. They stole my identity documents. They stole my dignity. They're going to go back to New York and spin a story. They'll tell everyone I'm unstable. They'll try to play the victim. They already are, Sterling said. He picked up a remote and clicked a button. A large screen on the cabin wall flickered to life. It was security footage. High definition. From the airport. I watched, frozen, as the camera angle showed the check-in counter from above. I saw myself handing over the passport. I saw my mother slip it into her purse. I saw my father laughing, actually laughing, as he spoke to the ticket agent. Then, the audio kicked in. It was faint but clear enough. She's having an episode, my father's voice said to the agent. We need to cancel her ticket so she can't follow us. She needs to stay here for treatment. Just refund it to this card. The screen went black. How? I whispered. I own the security firm that contracts with CDG, Sterling said simply. I have the footage of them at the gate, too. And inside the duty-free shop where your sister bought a $3,000 handbag 5 minutes after claiming they were broke. He slid a folder across the table. This is your leverage, Savannah. I'm giving you the receipts. In exchange, you give me 3 months. You play the role of my fiancé. We control the narrative. You get $50,000 a month, plus a $100,000 bonus when the contract ends. I looked at the folder. Inside was a USB drive. Evidence. For years, I had been the provider. The ATM. The fixer. I had let them walk all over me because I thought that's what love was. Love was sacrifice. Love was enduring abuse because family is everything. But looking at that black screen where my father had laughed while stranding me, I realized something. That wasn't love. That was predation. I picked up the glass of scotch and downed the rest of it in one burning gulp. I set the glass down with a heavy thud. Make it 200,000 bonus, I said, meeting his steel-gray eyes. And I want access to your corporate legal team. Specifically, a forensic accountant. Sterling's lips curved into that cold, dangerous smile again. Why a forensic accountant? Because if they were willing to do this in public, I said, tapping the folder, I want to know what they've been doing to my finances in private for the last 10 years. Sterling extended his hand. Deal. I shook it. His grip was firm, solid. Welcome to the team, Mrs. Vance, he said. I looked out the window at the dark ocean. Somewhere down there, the old Savannah had drowned. The woman flying toward New York was someone else entirely. And she was coming for blood. The penthouse was a fortress of glass and steel overlooking Central Park. It was quiet, a stark contrast to the chaotic, noisy brownstone in Brooklyn I shared with my family. Well paid for while they lived in it. Sterling had shown me to the guest wing, which was larger than my entire apartment. Rest, he had said. We start work tomorrow. But I couldn't rest. I sat on the edge of the king-sized bed, clutching the new iPhone Sterling's assistant had provided. My hands hovered over the screen. I needed to know. I dialed Marnie. Marnie was my cousin, a nurse at Mount Sinai, and the only person in the Brooks bloodline who hadn't drunk the Kool-Aid. She picked up on the first ring. Savannah. Her voice was a hushed scream. Oh my God. Where are you? Are you okay? The police said, the police. I stood up, my legs feeling like jelly. Marnie, slow down. I'm in New York. I'm safe. What do you mean the police? They're here, Vanna. At the brownstone. Your parents, they just got back from the airport. They called 911. My stomach dropped. Why would they call 911? They left me. They're telling everyone you had a psychotic break in Paris, Marnie whispered hurriedly. I could hear the sound of doors opening and closing in the background. She must have been hiding in a closet. They told the officers you started screaming about conspiracy theories and ran off into the city. They filed a missing person report, but... She hesitated. But what, Marnie? But they also called their lawyer, Uncle Jerry. They're talking about an emergency filing. Something about incapacity. They used the word conservatorship, Savannah. The world tilted on its axis. Conservatorship. I knew that word. I knew it from celebrity news. It was the legal mechanism used to strip an adult of their rights, their money, their medical decisions, their freedom, because they were deemed unfit to care for themselves. They want to lock me up, I whispered, the realization settling over me like a shroud of ice. They don't want me found safe. They want me found crazy. There's more, Marnie said, her voice trembling. I recorded them. I was in the kitchen when they were talking to Jerry on speakerphone. Sending it to you now. A ding echoed in the silent room. An audio file appeared in my messages. I pressed play. My mother's voice filled the room, shrill and theatrical. She was out of control, Jerry. Violent. We had to leave for our own safety. She's been unstable since her divorce, you know that. I hadn't been divorced. I had broken off an engagement 3 years ago because my fiancé refused to let my sister move in with us. I had chosen them. Then, my father's voice. We need control of her accounts immediately to pay for her medical search. She has significant assets in the primary savings account. If she's wandering around Europe, she could drain it. We need the judge to freeze it and grant us temporary guardianship. And then, the kicker. My sister Tiffany's voice, sounding bored. Can we get access to the condo deed too? If she's committed, we can sell it, right? I really don't want to live in Brooklyn anymore. My father, one step at a time, princess. Once the conservatorship is granted, we control everything. Savannah has been working hard, she's built a nice nest egg for us. For us. Not for her. For us. The recording ended. I stared at my reflection in the floor-to-ceiling window. I saw a woman with smudged mascara and hollow cheeks. A woman who had spent 15 years working overtime, skipping vacations, wearing old clothes so Tiffany could have designer bags and Dad could invest in his failed schemes. I had been their retirement plan. Their ATM. Their servant. And the moment I said no to a $20,000 debt, they decided to erase me. Something inside my chest, a tight knot of anxiety that had lived there since I was a child, suddenly unraveled. It didn't relax, it snapped. The tears I had been holding back since the jet didn't fall. Instead, they evaporated. The heat of my sadness turned into the absolute zero of cold rage. I wasn't sad anymore. I was done. I walked into the bathroom. I turned on the shower, stripped off the clothes I had worn for 24 hours, the clothes that smelled of airport despair, and stepped under the scalding water. I scrubbed my skin until it was red. I washed away the dutiful daughter. I washed away the victim. When I stepped out, I wrapped myself in a plush white robe. I walked back to the phone. "Marnie," I said. My voice sounded different to my own ears. Lower. Steadier. "Don't tell them you spoke to me. Let them think I'm missing." "What are you going to do?" Marnie asked. "I'm going to let them dig their grave," I said. "They want a crazy woman." "Fine. But they forgot one thing." "What?" "I keep the receipts." I hung up. I opened the laptop Sterling had provided. I didn't go to social media. I didn't check my email. I went straight to the online portal for my bank. Access denied. Account frozen due to suspicious activity. They had moved fast. I didn't panic. I opened a new tab. I logged into my cloud storage, the one backup they didn't know about. There, organized by year and month, were scans of every check, every transfer, every loan I had ever given them. I created a new folder. I named it Operation Regret. Then I walked out of the room and found Sterling in his study. He looked up, surprised to see me. "I need that forensic accountant," I said. "Tonight." Sterling looked at me. He saw the change. He saw the steel in my spine. He closed his book. "I'll make the call," he said. The next morning, the Savannah Brooks who walked into the offices of Vance Global looked nothing like the woman who had been stranded in Paris. Sterling had brought in his personal stylist at 6 a.m. "No frills," I had told her. "I don't want to look pretty. I want to look dangerous." I was wearing a sharp navy blazer, tailored trousers that ended at the ankle, and stiletto heels that clicked against the marble floor like gunshots. My hair, usually a messy bun, was blown out straight and sleek. I wasn't just dressing for the part of a billionaire's fiancé. I was putting on armor. In the conference room, Harrison Cole was waiting. He was Sterling's head of legal, a man in his 60s with eyes like a hawk, and a reputation for shredding opponents in court. Next to him was a younger woman with glasses, typing furiously on a laptop. That was the forensic accountant, Sarah. "Ms. Brooks," Harrison said, standing up. He didn't look at me with pity. He looked at me like I was a case study. Sterling briefed me. "It's aggressive." "It's theft," I said, taking a seat. "Show me." Sarah turned the laptop around. "I've gone through the last 10 years of your financials based on the cloud records you provided. You were right to be meticulous. A spreadsheet filled the screen. Rows and rows of red. Here, she pointed. You authorized monthly transfers for the mortgage. That's standard. But here, look at these withdrawals from the joint account you share with your mother for groceries. I squinted. $800 at an ATM in Atlantic City. Mom doesn't gamble. Your father does, Sarah said gently. We cross-referenced the dates. Every time there was a withdrawal, your father's phone geolocation, which we pulled from the family plan data you pay for, placed him at the Borgata casino. My stomach tightened, but I pushed the nausea down. Keep going. It gets worse, Harrison said. He slid a piece of paper across the table. It was a loan application for a $50,000 line of credit in my name, taken out 3 years ago. I never applied for this, I said. I have excellent credit. I don't need high-interest loans. Look at the signature, Harrison said. I looked. It was my name. But the S looped at the bottom. I don't loop my S. But my sister Tiffany does. Forgery, I breathed. They forged my signature to pay off, what? Tiffany's student loans. Sarah guessed. Or maybe just credit card debt. The money went into an account solely in her name. Total? I asked. My voice was calm, terrifyingly so. How much have they taken from me over the last 15 years? Sarah clicked a button. A sum appeared at the bottom of the screen. $1,240,000. The room spun. $1.2 million. That was my life. My retirement. My blood, sweat, and tears. I had been eating ramen noodles and shopping at thrift stores while they gambled and bought Louis Vuitton with my $1 million. They aren't just bad with money, I said, staring at the number. They are embezzlers. And now they want the rest, Harrison said. We found the emergency filing they submitted this morning. They are claiming you have early-onset dementia, induced by stress. They are asking for full control of your remaining assets, and the deed to the Manhattan condo your grandmother left you. The condo is the only thing they can't touch, I said. Grandma put it in a trust until I was 35. It's the only reason I still have it. They're arguing that your disappearance proves you can't manage the property, Harrison explained. If the judge grants the temporary conservatorship, they can liquidate the condo to pay for your care. They want to sell it, I realized. They want the cash. Sterling walked in at that moment. He looked at the screen, then at me. Are you ready to fight back? He asked. I stood up. I picked up the printed sheet with the forged signature. I don't want to just fight back, I said. I want to bury them. Good, Sterling said. Because tonight is the gala. And I just received word that your family has been talking to the press. They're playing the grieving, worried parents perfectly. The New York Post is running a story tomorrow. Daughter of local family vanishes in Paris, parents fear mental break. Let them run it, I said. Because tonight, Savannah Brooks isn't going to be missing. She's going to be on the arm of the most powerful man in New York. We need a cover story, Harrison warned. If you appear suddenly, they'll claim Sterling is hiding you or manipulating you. No, I said. I looked at Sterling. We tell the truth. Or a version of it. We met. We fell in love. And I cut off my toxic family to be with him. It explains why I'm not talking to them, and it makes their mental break story look like a desperate attempt to control a wealthy woman. Sterling nodded, impressed. Control the narrative. Exactly. I smoothed my blazer. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a gala to attend. And I believe I need to look like $1 billion. As I walked out, I felt the weight of the $1.2 million theft sitting on my shoulders. It wasn't a burden anymore. It was fuel. Every dollar they stole was another nail in their coffin. The grand ballroom of the Pierre Hotel was a sea of black ties and designer gowns. The air smelled of expensive perfume and ambition. I stood at the top of the staircase, my hand resting lightly on Sterling's arm. I was wearing an emerald green silk gown that hugged every curve, with a slit that went up to my thigh. Around my neck was a diamond necklace borrowed from the Vance family vault. "Breathe," Sterling whispered. "You look lethal." "I feel lethal," I whispered back. We descended. Heads turned. The whispers started immediately. Sterling Vance, the grieving widower, had finally emerged from his solitude. And who was the woman? "Is that?" "No, it can't be. She's stunning." We navigated the room. Sterling introduced me simply, "This is Savannah. My partner." I played the role perfectly. I charmed the senator with talk of policy. I laughed at the banker's bad jokes. I used my crisis management skills to read the room, steering Sterling away from bores and toward potential investors. Then, I saw him. Julian Vance. Sterling's younger brother. He was holding court near the bar, looking like a cheaper, slimier version of Sterling. When he saw us, his eyes widened. He whispered something to a man next to him, then strode over. "Sterling," Julian said, his smile not reaching his eyes. "And who is this?" "Savannah," Sterling said curtly. "My fiancée." The word dropped like a bomb. Julian flinched. "Fiancé?" Julian laughed, a nervous sound. "Since when?" "You were grieving 2 days ago." "Life moves fast, Julian," I interjected, my voice smooth as silk. "Sterling and I realize that life is too short to wait." Julian looked at me, his eyes narrowing. He was searching for a weakness. "Savannah Brooks, right? I think I know that name. Don't you live in Brooklyn? With that colorful family?" He knew. "I live here now," I said. "With Sterling." "Interesting," Julian sneered. "Because I heard a rumor that the Brooks family is currently looking for a missing person. A mental patient, actually." He snapped his fingers. A woman stepped out from behind him. My heart stopped for a beat. It was Kelly. An old friend from high school who I knew for a fact was currently dating my sister's ex-boyfriend. "Savannah!" Kelly shrieked, playing to the crowd. "Oh my God. Your poor mother is sick with worry. She told me you ran off at the airport screaming about aliens." The conversation in the ballroom died. All eyes were on us. This was the trap. Julian wanted to humiliate Sterling by showing he was dating a lunatic. I felt Sterling tense up beside me. He was ready to call security. I squeezed his arm. "Let me handle this." I stepped forward, closing the distance with Kelly. I didn't look crazy. I looked regal. "Kelly," I said, my voice projecting clearly without shouting. "It's so good to see you. How is your probation officer? Did you finally sort out that shoplifting charge from Macy's?" Kelly's jaw dropped. The crowd gasped. What?" she stammered. "And please tell my mother," I continued, smiling benignly, "that I am perfectly safe. I simply decided that at 40 years old, I no longer wanted to fund her gambling addiction, or my sister's credit card fraud. I'm sure you can understand why a woman would choose this." I gestured to the room, to Sterling, to the diamonds, over being an ATM for a toxic family. I turned to Julian. "It's a shame, Julian, that you listen to gossip from people with criminal records. It reflects poorly on your judgment as a board member." Julian turned red. The crowd murmured in agreement. The shoplifting. Gambling addiction. I had flipped the script. I wasn't the crazy one. I was the victim of a trashy family who had escaped. "Shall we?" I asked Sterling. "We shall," Sterling said, looking at me with undisguised admiration. We walked away, leaving Julian and Kelly sputtering in our wake. Later that night, as we were driven home, Sterling handed me his phone. My security team hacked Julian's texts while we were at dinner, he said. I looked at the screen. A thread between Julian and a number labeled the father. Julian, she's here. With him. She looks expensive. The father, my dad, don't let her speak. Stick to the plan. Make her look crazy. Julian, I'm trying. But she's smarter than you said. If she marries him, your conservatorship is dead in the water. Spouses have priority. The father, she won't marry him. We have the medical reports faked. Just get me the address. I stared at the phone. He's funding them, I realized. Julian is paying my parents' legal fees. He wants my company, Sterling said grimly. And your parents want your money. They found each other. They want to stop the marriage, I said. Sterling looked at me. Then we have to make sure they can't. How? We get married, Sterling said. For real. Tonight. We go to the 24-hour clerk in Vegas. We fly there now. A fake marriage? I asked. A real marriage on paper, he said. A business merger. It protects you from the conservatorship. As your husband, I would have medical power of attorney, not your father. And it protects me from Julian, it shows stability. I looked at the city lights blurring past. Let's go to the airport, I said. We were married in a small chapel in Las Vegas at 4 a.m. No Elvis impersonator. Just a tired clerk and Sterling's head of security as a witness. When we signed the papers, Savannah Vance, I felt a strange shift in the universe. I was no longer Savannah Brooks, the victim. I was Savannah Vance, the billionaire's wife. It was a shield. We flew back to New York immediately. We needed to be ready for the legal onslaught. 2 days later, we were in Sterling's office when Harrison, the lawyer, rushed in. He looked pale. We found it, Harrison said, dropping a thick file on the desk. We found the motive. It's not just the condo, Savannah. And it's not just the money you've already earned. What is it? I asked. Your grandmother, Harrison said. Margaret Brooks. She died when you were 20, right? Yes. She left me the condo. She left you more than that, Harrison said. She created a trust fund. A generation-skipping trust. I frowned. I never heard of this. Because your parents were the trustees, Harrison explained. But they couldn't touch the principal. The terms of the trust state that the beneficiary, you, gains full access and control of the funds upon your 40th birthday. My birthday? It was in 2 weeks. How much? Sterling asked. Harrison took a breath. $5 million. Plus interest accrued over 20 years. It's closer to $8 million now. I sat down heavily. The room went silent. $8 million. My grandmother knew. Even back then, she knew my parents were bad with money. She had bypassed them completely, locking the money away until I was old enough to protect it. But here's the kicker, Harrison continued, flipping a page. There is a clause. If the beneficiary is deemed mentally incapacitated or unfit before the age of 40, the trusteeship reverts to the parents permanently, and they may access the funds for the beneficiary's care. Everything clicked into place. The cruelty. The timing. The desperation. They didn't just want the condo. They wanted the $8 million. If I turned 40 in 2 weeks as a free, sane woman, the money was mine. My parents would get nothing. But if they could get a judge to declare me incapacitated before my birthday, they would control the entire fortune. That's why they did it, I whispered. That's why they abandoned me in Paris. They wanted me to have a breakdown. They wanted a police report. They wanted proof that I was crazy so they could file the papers before the deadline. They sold their daughter for $8 million, Sterling said, his voice dripping with disgust. They aren't just thieves, I said, shaking with rage. They are monsters. I thought about the years I spent paying their bills. The times I skipped dinner so I could pay the electric bill. The guilt trips. We raised you, Savannah. You owe us. All the while, they knew there was a fortune waiting for me. And they were plotting to steal it. What do we do? I asked Harrison. Well, Harrison smiled, a shark-like grin. Now that you are Mrs. Vance, the incapacity argument is much harder to make. But they don't know you're married yet. The records are sealed in Nevada for another 48 hours. They're planning to ambush you, Sterling said. Julian told them we're going to the Hamptons' house for the weekend. They think you're just my girlfriend. They're coming to rescue you. With a psychiatrist, Harrison added. They have hired Dr. Eris, a man known for writing whatever diagnosis pays the most. They plan to show up with an emergency court order for a 72-hour psychiatric hold. If they lock you up for 72 hours, they can miss the birthday deadline. They're coming to the Hamptons. I asked. Tomorrow, Sterling said. Julian leaked the address. I stood up and walked to the window. I looked out at the city I had conquered, and then I thought about the Hamptons. The beach. The privacy. Let them come, I said. Sterling looked at me. Savannah, it's risky. If the police side with them. No, I turned around. I'm done running. I'm done hiding in penthouses and private jets. They want to come for me. Fine. I walked over to the desk and picked up the marriage certificate. Let them come to the gate, I said. I want to see the look on their faces when they realize they aren't here to collect a victim. They're here to face the lady of the manor. We need a trap, Sterling said, catching on. Oh, we'll have a trap, I said. Harrison, can you get the grandmother's will authenticated by tomorrow? Consider it done. And Sterling, I looked at my husband. I need you to hire a camera crew. Tell them we're filming a documentary. I want everything recorded. Every word they say. You want to broadcast this? I want receipts, I said. If they want a show, I'll give them a show. But the ending won't be what they expect. We took the helicopter to the Hamptons. It was faster and honestly, I was getting used to the billionaire lifestyle. It felt insulating. Like nothing could touch you when you were 1,000 feet in the air. The house in East Hampton was less a house and more a modern castle. Glass, white stone, and the sound of the ocean crashing against the dunes. It's beautiful, I said as we landed on the private pad. It's a fortress, Sterling corrected. High walls. Private security. And technically, it's now our matrimonial home. That night, the house was quiet. The staff had been dismissed for the evening to give us privacy. Sterling and I sat on the patio, wrapped in blankets, listening to the waves. It was the first time we had really stopped moving since the airport. You know, Sterling said, swirling his wine. You're incredible. Most people would have crumbled. I did crumble, I admitted. At the airport. Before you walked up. That wasn't crumbling, he said. That was shedding skin. You had to break to rebuild. He looked at me. The moonlight caught the silver in his hair. For a moment, the business arrangement faded. He wasn't Sterling Vance, the billionaire. He was just a man who had been lonely, sitting next to a woman who had been used. Why did you really help me? I asked. You could have found another fake wife. Someone easier. Someone without a crazy family hunting her. Sterling sighed. My wife. Elena. She didn't die in an accident. She took her own life. I froze. Sterling, I didn't know. Nobody knows. We covered it up. Said it was a car crash. But the truth was, she was surrounded by people who used her. Her family, her friends. They drained her dry, emotionally and financially. And I was too busy building my empire to stop them. When I saw you at the airport, I saw the same look in your eyes that she had near the end. The look of someone who has given everything and received nothing. He reached out and covered my hand with his. His palm was warm. I couldn't save her, he whispered. But I thought, maybe I could save you. And in doing so, maybe I could forgive myself. I turned my hand over and interlaced my fingers with his. It wasn't romantic love, not yet, but it was a profound, deep connection. A pact between two survivors. You did save me, I said. And tomorrow, we're going to make sure nobody ever uses either of us again. We sat there for a long time, holding hands in the dark. The next morning, the preparation began. Harrison arrived with a team of lawyers. We set up cameras in the driveway, hidden in the landscaping. We had microphones planted in the foyer. The police will arrive first, Harrison instructed. They will have a temporary mental health hygiene warrant. It allows them to detain you for evaluation, if there is credible evidence of danger to self. Dr. Eris will be with them, Sterling added. He's on Julian's payroll. I'll be ready, I said. I was wearing a white linen dress. Simple. Elegant. Sane. At 2 p.m., the intercom buzzed. Sir, the head of security said over the radio. They're here. 2 police cruisers. And a black SUV. Your brother is in the SUV with the Brooks family. Let them in, Sterling commanded. But only to the driveway. I stood up. My heart hammered against my ribs, but my hands were steady. It's showtime, I said. The gravel crunched under the tires as the convoy rolled up the long driveway. The red and blue lights of the police cars reflected off the pristine white walls of the house. I stood on the front steps, Sterling slightly behind me to my right, Harrison to my left. My parents got out of the black SUV first. My mother was wearing black, as if she were already in mourning. She threw her hands up when she saw me. Savannah, she wailed. A theatrical, gut-wrenching scream. Oh, thank God. My baby. She started to run toward me, but Sterling's security guards stepped in, blocking her path. Ma'am, stay back, the guard ordered. That's my daughter, my father shouted, stepping out. He looked furious. You're holding her against her will. Officers, do something. 2 police officers stepped forward. They looked uncomfortable. This was East Hampton. They weren't used to raiding billionaire estates. Ms. Brooks, the lead officer asked. We have a court order here signed by Judge Miller. It authorizes us to take you into protective custody for a psychiatric evaluation. Your family claims you are a danger to yourself. A short, balding man in a suit stepped out of the SUV. Dr. Eris. I am Dr. Eris, he announced, waving a clipboard. I have reviewed the family's testimony. Ms. Brooks is suffering from acute paranoid delusions. She believes her family is stealing from her. She needs immediate sedation and transport. Paranoid delusions. They were gaslighting me on a legal level. I looked at them. My mother, sobbing into a handkerchief, probably the same one she used to hide her smirk at the airport. My father, red-faced and self-righteous. Tiffany, standing by the car, looking at the house with greedy eyes, calculating its value. And Julian, sitting in the back seat, watching through the tinted window. I am not going anywhere, I said. My voice was calm, clear, and amplified by the hidden microphones. Savannah, please. Mom cried. You're not well. We just want to help you. Come home. We can fix this. Fix what, Mom? I asked. My bank account. Or the fact that I turned 40 in 2 weeks. My father stiffened. He knew that I knew. She's talking nonsense, Dad snapped at the police. See? Paranoid. Officer, grab her. The officer took a step forward. Ms. Brooks, please don't make this difficult. We have a warrant. The warrant is for Savannah Brooks, Harrison Cole said, stepping forward. He held up a document. This is Savannah Brooks, the officer said. Incorrect, Harrison said smoothly. This is Savannah Vance. Silence descended on the driveway. The only sound was the wind in the trees. Vance, my father choked out. Sterling and I were married 3 days ago, I said, lifting my hand to show the massive diamond ring Sterling had given me that morning. I am his wife. Which means, officer, that my husband has medical power of attorney. Not my parents. I looked at the police officer. Furthermore, New York law states that a spouse's testimony regarding mental state supersedes that of estranged parents. Sterling. Sterling stepped forward. He looked every inch the titan of industry. My wife is perfectly sane, Sterling said, his voice deep and authoritative. She is intelligent, capable, and currently the victim of an attempted extortion scheme by the people standing in my driveway. This is a lie. Dr. Aris shouted. He's manipulating her. This is part of the delusion. Officer, Harrison said, handing the marriage certificate to the policeman. This is a legal document. Unless you have evidence of a crime committed right now, you have no jurisdiction here. This is a civil dispute between a wife and her in-laws. If you touch Mrs. Vance, we will sue the department for false arrest and harassment. The officer looked at the certificate. He looked at Sterling Vance, a major donor to the police fund, no doubt. He looked at my screaming, chaotic parents. It looks valid, the officer said. He turned to my father. Sir, if she's married, the conservatorship order is moot until a judge reviews it. We can't take her. You have to, my father screamed, lunging forward. She's crazy. She's mine. She's mine. Not she's my daughter. She's my possession. Security held him back. Get off my property, Sterling said. Or I will have you arrested for trespassing. You can't do this. Tiffany yelled. We need her to come home. You need the money, I said. You need the trust fund. My mother stopped crying instantly. Her face went slack. Go home, I said. And get a good lawyer. Because I'm not just staying here. I'm coming for everything you stole. The police officer signaled his partner. Folks, you need to leave. Now. Defeated, my parents got back into the SUV. Julian's car reversed aggressively, kicking up gravel. The police cruisers followed them out. I stood on the steps, watching the taillights disappear. My heart was pounding, but for the first time in my life, it wasn't from fear. It was from adrenaline. They won't stop, I said to Sterling. No, he agreed. They'll regroup. They'll try to prove the marriage is a sham. They'll try to prove I coerced you. Then we have one more thing to do, I said. What? I turned to go back inside. We have to prepare for court. Because when they drag us in front of a judge next week, and they will, I'm going to play the video of what just happened. And then, I'm going to reveal the audit. I looked at the empty driveway. The siege is over, I whispered. Now the war begins. The silence in the Hamptons' house after the police left was heavy, but it wasn't empty. It was filled with the static charge of a storm that had paused, not passed. My parents had retreated, but I knew them. They were like mold, if you didn't scrub them out completely, they would just grow back in the dark. Sterling found me in the kitchen an hour later. I was staring at a cup of tea that had gone cold, my mind replaying the look on my mother's face. It wasn't love. It wasn't even worry. It was the panicked look of a gambler who had just watched the roulette wheel land on the wrong number. "They've filed for an emergency hearing," Sterling said, walking in with his phone in hand. Tuesday morning. 9 a.m. Judge Banks. Banks. I looked up. I know her reputation. She's tough. She hates wasting time. Exactly. Julian is pulling strings to get it expedited. They're going to argue that I coerced you into the marriage to steal your assets, and that you are mentally incompetent to consent to the union. They want to annul the marriage and reinstate the conservatorship application immediately. I laughed, a dry, humorless sound. They really think I'm that weak. They think I'm a puppet. They're desperate, Savannah. And desperate people make mistakes. Sterling sat down across from me. Harrison suggests we offer a settlement meeting. Tomorrow. Neutral ground. It's a standard legal maneuver to show the judge we tried to resolve this amicably. They won't settle, I said. They want the $8 million. I know. Sterling's eyes glinted with that dangerous intelligence I had come to rely on. But we don't want them to settle. We want them to talk. He slid a small, black device across the marble island. A high-fidelity voice recorder. The penthouse in Manhattan is wired, he explained. Video and audio in every room. But if we meet them in a conference room, they'll be on guard. If I invite them to the penthouse, if I tell them I'm reconsidering, if I tell them I might be willing to return you for a price. My blood ran cold. You want to pretend to sell me back to them? I want them to think I'm just like them, Sterling said softly. Greedy. Transactional. If they think I'm on their side, that I'm just a businessman looking to cut my losses, they'll drop the act. They'll tell the truth about why they need you back so badly. It was risky. It was cruel. And it was brilliant. Do it, I said. The meeting was set for Monday evening. The sun was setting over Central Park, casting long, blood-red shadows across the living room of the penthouse. I stayed in the guest bedroom, watching the feed on a monitor. I wasn't supposed to be seen. To them, I was locked away, sedated, or being handled. My parents and Tiffany walked in. They looked different than they had in the driveway. Less hysterical, more smug. Julian was with them, looking bored and checking his watch. Sterling stood by the fireplace, swirling a glass of scotch. He didn't offer them a seat. Let's cut to the chase, Sterling said, his voice smooth and detached. You want Savannah. I have Savannah. But frankly, the drama is bad for my stock price. Julian tells me you're persistent. We just want our daughter, my mother said, clutching her purse. She's sick. Drop it, Deborah, Sterling snapped. There are no cameras here. No police. Just us. You don't want her because she's sick. You want her because she's a payday. How dare you, my father started, puffing up his chest. I know about the trust fund, Sterling dropped the bomb. Silence. Absolute, suffocating silence. Tiffany stopped scrolling on her phone. My father's face went from red to pale gray. I know it unlocks in 10 days, Sterling continued, taking a sip of his drink. $8 million. If she's free, she gets it. If she's under your control, you get it. Am I getting warm? It's family money, my father hissed, dropping the concerned parent act instantly. Her grandmother made a mistake. Savannah doesn't know how to handle that kind of wealth. She'll waste it. We have debts. Obligations. Gambling debts? Sterling asked. Investments, my father shouted. Bad luck, that's all. We just need a bridge loan. The trust fund covers everything, with plenty left over. Look, Vance, you're a businessman. You don't need her money. You have billions. Why do you care? I don't, Sterling lied effortlessly. But she's my wife now. That gives me leverage. So here's the deal. I annul the marriage. I hand her over to you. You get your conservatorship. But I want a cut. I watched on the monitor, my nails digging into my palms. It was sickening to hear them barter over my life like I was a piece of cattle. A cut? Tiffany asked, perking up. How much? 2 million, Sterling said. Consulting fee. For my trouble. 2 million. My mother scoffed. That leaves us with only 6. After paying Julian's cut and the lawyers, we'll barely have enough to clear the mortgage and the credit cards. Julian's cut. I froze. I rewound the audio in my head. Julian's cut. Sterling didn't miss a beat. He turned to his brother. You're taking a cut, Julian. I thought you were doing this for the moral integrity of the company. Julian shrugged, pouring himself a drink from the bar. Hostile takeovers are expensive, brother. Richard here promised me 15% of the trust if I helped expedite the legal paperwork and funded the initial PR blast against you. It's just business. So Sterling looked back at my parents. The plan was, destroy your daughter's reputation, lock her up in a facility, drug her until she misses her birthday, and then split her inheritance with my brother. She wouldn't feel a thing, my mother said, waving her hand dismissively. Dr. Aris said the medication is very gentle. She'd just sleep for a few weeks. When she wakes up, we'd have the money, we'd pay off the debts, and she can come back home. We'd take care of her. It's for her own good, really. Without us, she'd have nothing. She'd have $8 million, Sterling corrected. She owes us, my father slammed his hand on the table. We raised her. We fed her. That money belongs to the family, not her selfish ego. I had heard enough. I didn't need to hear any more. Sterling looked at them, a look of pure, unadulterated loathing crossing his face. Get out, he said quietly. Do we have a deal? My father asked, hopeful. I'll see you in court, Sterling said. You have nothing. Julian laughed. It's your word against ours. And we have the medical records. Get out. They left confident, arrogant, believing they had just negotiated a hard bargain. They didn't know that the little black box on the table had captured every word. They didn't know they had just confessed to conspiracy, fraud, and kidnapping. I walked out of the bedroom. I felt light. The burden of guilt I had carried for years, the feeling that maybe I was a bad daughter, maybe I did owe them, was gone. Did we get it? I asked Sterling. He handed me the recorder. We got it all. Good, I said, clutching the device like a weapon. Because tomorrow, I'm not just going to win. I'm going to make sure they never hurt anyone ever again. Tuesday morning. The New York Supreme Court. The air in the courtroom smelled of lemon polish and old paper. The gallery was packed. Julian had done his job well, the press was here. They wanted to see the billionaire versus the grieving family. I sat at the defendant's table next to Sterling and Harrison. I wore a charcoal gray suit, high-necked, severe. No jewelry except my wedding ring. I sat with my back straight, hands folded. Across the aisle, my parents were putting on the performance of a lifetime. My mother was dressed in a frumpy cardigan, clutching a tissue, looking frail. My father was rubbing her back, playing the stoic protector. Tiffany was absent, probably shopping with the money she thought she was about to get. Dr. Aris sat behind them, looking important. All rise, the bailiff called out. Judge Cornelia Banks swept in. She was a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She looked at the packed courtroom and frowned. This is a family court hearing, not a circus, she snapped. One outburst and I clear the room. She turned her gaze to the plaintiff's table. Mr. Gorski, you are representing the Brooks family. You filed for an emergency annulment and temporary conservatorship. Proceed. Gorski, a slick lawyer paid for by Julian, stood up. Your Honor, he began, his voice dripping with false empathy. This is a tragedy. Savannah Brooks is a beloved daughter who suffered a psychotic break in Paris 5 days ago. We have sworn affidavits from her parents stating she was hallucinating, violent, and paranoid. We have a report from Dr. Aris, a respected psychiatrist, who reviewed her history and believes she is a danger to herself. He gestured to me. In her vulnerable state, she was preyed upon by Mr. Sterling Vance, a man known for his ruthless business tactics. He kidnapped her, coerced her into a sham marriage to shield his own corporate reputation, and is now isolating her from the family who loves her. We ask that the marriage be annulled immediately and custody of Ms. Brooks be returned to her parents for medical treatment. Judge Banks looked at me. Mr. Vance's counsel. Harrison stood up. Your Honor, these claims are fabrication. Mrs. Vance is competent, sane, and entered the marriage willingly. Lies, my mother shouted from the table. Look at her. She's not looking at us. She's brainwashed. Mrs. Brooks, silence. Judge Banks banged her gavel. Call your first witness, the judge ordered Gorski. They called Kelly. My old friend from the gala. Kelly walked up to the stand, flipping her hair. She swore to tell the truth. Ms. Kelly, did you see Savannah Brooks recently? Yes, Kelly said, making wide eyes at the jury box. At the gala. She was scary. She was rambling about diamonds and shoplifting. She attacked me verbally. It was like she was a different person. Totally manic. I watched Kelly lie. I remembered helping her study for SATs. I remembered lending her money for an abortion she didn't want her parents to know about. Next, they called Dr. Aris. Dr. Aris, in your professional opinion, is Savannah Brooks competent? Absolutely not, Aris said, adjusting his glasses. The sudden flight, the impulsive marriage, the paranoia about her family, these are textbook signs of manic psychosis. She needs to be in a facility. If she is left with Mr. Vance, I fear for her life. The courtroom murmured. It looked bad. To an outsider, the narrative fit. The dutiful daughter snaps, runs off with a billionaire, cuts off her family. It sounded like madness. My father took the stand last. He cried. Actual tears. I just want my little girl back, he sobbed. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the condo. I just want her safe. Please, Your Honor. Let us take care of her. Judge Banks looked sympathetic. Even Sterling looked tense. Mr. Cole, the judge said to our lawyer. Your cross-examination. Harrison stood up. He didn't walk to the podium. He walked to the center of the room. We have no questions for Mr. Brooks, Harrison said. The gallery gasped. My father smirked through his tears. He thought he had won. However, Harrison continued, his voice rising, we do have a submission of evidence that refutes the entirety of the plaintiff's case. We call this Exhibit A. Harrison signaled to the tech assistant. A large screen descended from the ceiling. Your Honor, Gorski objected. We haven't seen this evidence. It was submitted to your office 10 minutes ago, counsel, Harrison said. It is forensic digital evidence. The screen flickered to life. It wasn't the recording from the penthouse. Not yet. It was the airport security footage. The room went deadly silent as the grainy but clear video played. It showed me crying at the security gate. It showed the security guard stopping me. Then, the angle switched. It showed my parents and Tiffany walking away. They weren't crying. They weren't looking back. They were stopping at the duty-free shop. The camera zoomed in. My father was laughing. He high-fived Tiffany. My mother was holding up a perfume bottle. Is this the behavior of parents who believe their daughter is having a psychotic break? Harrison asked the room. Shopping for Chanel 5 minutes after abandoning her without a passport. My father's face on the stand went pale. But that's not all, Harrison said. Exhibit B. The financial audit. The screen changed. Rows of numbers. The $1.2 million figure highlighted in red. The forged loan document with Tiffany's looped S. This is theft, Harrison stated. Systematic embezzlement over 15 years. But why the urgency now? Why the emergency filing? Harrison turned to the judge. Your Honor, may I present Exhibit C? The audio recording from a meeting held last night at the Vance penthouse. Objection. Gorski screamed. Illegal wiretap. New York is a one-party consent state, Your Honor, Harrison countered calmly. Mr. Vance consented to the recording in his own home. Overruled, Judge Banks said, leaning forward. Play it. The audio filled the courtroom. Sterling, the trust fund unlocks in 10 days. $8 million. My father, it's family money. We have debts, gambling debts. My mother, she wouldn't feel a thing. Dr. Aris said the medication is very gentle. She'd just sleep for a few weeks. Julian, Richard here promised me 15% of the trust. The sound of my mother plotting to drug me, to put me in a medically induced coma just to steal my inheritance, echoed off the mahogany walls. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. It went from curiosity to horror. The reporters were typing furiously. My father slumped in the witness chair. He looked small. He looked like exactly what he was, a thief caught in the spotlight. I looked at Judge Banks. Her face was a mask of cold fury. She wasn't looking at the evidence anymore. She was looking at Dr. Aris, who was trying to sneak out the side door. Bailiff, Judge Banks said, her voice cutting through the noise like a knife. Lock the doors. Nobody leaves. The sound of the bailiff locking the heavy double doors of the courtroom was the most satisfying sound I had ever heard. It was the sound of a trap snapping shut, but this time, my family was the prey. Judge Banks stood up. She didn't look like a judge anymore, she looked like an executioner. In 30 years on the bench, she said, her voice shaking with controlled rage, I have seen greed. I have seen malice. But I have never seen a conspiracy this calculated, this repugnant, and this stupid. She turned her gaze to Dr. Aris. Dr. Aris, you are hereby held in contempt of court. I am referring your medical license to the board for immediate revocation, and I am recommending the district attorney investigate you for medical malpractice and conspiracy to commit kidnapping. 2 officers moved toward Aris. He was sweating, stammering, I was misled. They told me. Silence. Banks roared. She turned to the plaintiff's table. My mother was shrinking into her cardigan, looking like a wet rat. Mr. and Mrs. Brooks, Judge Banks said. Your petition for conservatorship is denied with prejudice. That means you can never file it again. Furthermore, based on the evidence of forgery, embezzlement, and conspiracy presented here, I am issuing an immediate bench warrant for your arrest. Arrest, my mother shrieked. But we're her parents. You are criminals, Banks corrected. Officers, take them into custody. Pandemonium broke out. My father stood up, trying to run, but there was nowhere to go. An officer grabbed his arm, twisting it behind his back. The click of handcuffs echoed in the room. Savannah, my mother wailed as she was cuffed. Savannah, tell them. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. We did it for you. I stood up. I walked slowly to the railing that separated us. I looked down at my mother. For me? I asked quietly. You were going to put me in a coma, Mom. For money. You didn't do it for me. You did it to me. We'll lose the house, she cried. They'll put us in jail. I hope so, I said. And don't worry about the house. The bank will take it. You won't need it where you're going. They dragged them out. My father was cursing me. My mother was sobbing. It was ugly. It was tragic. And it was necessary. But I wasn't done. I turned to the gallery. To Julian Vance. He was sitting in the front row, looking pale. He stood up, trying to look dignified. Well, this is a family matter. I should go. Sit down, Julian, Sterling said. He didn't shout, but his voice carried the weight of a sledgehammer. Sterling walked over to his brother. The recording mentioned you, Julian, Sterling said. 15% of the trust. Conspiracy to commit fraud. And funding a lawsuit against your own brother's company. It was a joke, Julian stammered, loosening his tie. Just talk. I have the wire transfer records, Harrison interjected from the table. You paid Gorski's retainer from your personal account. That links you to the conspiracy. Sterling looked at Julian with pity. You wanted the CEO chair so bad you sided with these people. You wanted to destroy an innocent woman just to hurt me. You were weak. Julian spat, his mask slipping. You were mourning Elena like a pathetic child. The company needed a leader. The company has a leader, Sterling said. And as of this morning, the board has voted unanimously to remove you. You're fired, Julian. And with these criminal charges pending, your stock options are frozen. Julian looked around. The press was taking pictures of him. His career was over. His reputation was incinerated. He slumped back into the bench, defeated. I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Sterling. It's over, he said. I looked at the empty plaintiff's table. I looked at the judge, who was writing furiously in her ledger. I looked at the door where my parents had been dragged out. Not yet, I said. There's one more thing. I walked over to the court clerk. I need to file a document, I said. What is it? The clerk asked. My grandmother's trust fund, I said. I turn 40 next week. I want to designate a new trustee in case, well, just in case. Who is the trustee? Me, I said. Just me. We walked out of the courthouse into a blinding flurry of camera flashes. Reporters shoved microphones in my face. Mrs. Vance. Mrs. Vance. How do you feel about your parents going to jail? Did you really marry Sterling Vance for protection? Is it true you're worth $8 million? I stopped. I pulled Sterling closer. I looked directly into the camera lens. My parents taught me that family is everything, I said into the microphone. They were wrong. Loyalty is everything. Respect is everything. And if you have people in your life who treat you like an ATM, instead of a human being, fire them. I got into the limo. Sterling slid in next to me. The door closed, shutting out the noise. I leaned back against the leather seat and closed my eyes. For the first time in 15 years, I didn't have a knot in my stomach. I didn't have a mental list of bills to pay for Tiffany. I didn't have to worry about my mother's gambling. I was free. So, Sterling said, pouring 2 glasses of champagne from the car's console. We have a problem. What problem? I opened my eyes. We have a marriage contract, he said, handing me a glass. It says we divorce after the threat is neutralized. I looked at him. The man who had found me broken in an airport and helped me build myself into a warrior. The man who had stood by me when my own blood turned against me. The threat is neutralized, I said softly. Technically, Sterling said, swirling his glass. But Julian is going to appeal. And the trial for your parents will take months. It might look suspicious if we divorce right away. He was making an excuse. A flimsy, transparent, business excuse. I smiled. A real smile. We wouldn't want to look suspicious, I agreed. Maybe we should renegotiate the contract. I was thinking the same thing, Sterling said. He clinked his glass against mine. To justice, he said. To freedom, I replied. 1 year later, the morning sun hit the balcony of our Hamptons house, turning the ocean into a sheet of diamonds. I sat with my legs curled under me, a notebook in my lap, listening to the sound of the waves. A lot can change in 365 days. My parents were currently serving year 1 of a 5-year sentence for fraud and elder abuse. The irony of the charge, abusing the grandmother's trust, was not lost on me. The brownstone in Brooklyn was sold at auction to pay back the $1.2 million they stole from me. Tiffany avoided jail time by testifying against them. She claimed she was coerced. Maybe she was. But without the family money, she had to get a job. I heard from Marnie that she was working as a hostess at a TGI Fridays in Queens. I didn't reach out. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes. Dr. Eris lost his license and fled to South America. Julian was under house arrest, awaiting trial for corporate espionage. And me? I looked down at my notebook. Vance and Brooks Crisis Management. I had started my own firm. Not under Sterling's umbrella, my own. I used the money from Grandma's trust to set it up. I helped women. Specifically, women who were being financially abused by their families or partners. I helped them find lawyers, hide assets, and escape. I was the person I wished had been there for me at the airport. The glass door slid open. Sterling walked out, holding 2 cups of coffee. He was wearing casual clothes, linen pants and a t-shirt. He looked younger, lighter than the man I met in Paris. You're up early, he said, handing me a mug. Thinking, I said. About the anniversary. Ah, he sat down next to me. The day I kidnapped you. The day you saved me, I corrected. We hadn't divorced. We hadn't even talked about it. The contract had gathered dust in a safe somewhere. In the chaos of the trials and the media storm, we had become something more than partners. We had become a team. And somewhere in the quiet moments, cooking dinner on Tuesdays, walking on the beach on Sundays, we had fallen in love. It wasn't the fiery, dramatic love of movies. It was the steady, unshakable love of 2 people who had seen the worst of humanity and chosen to build something better. I have something for you, Sterling said. He pulled an envelope out of his pocket. I took it. Inside were 2 tickets. Air France. First class. New York to Paris. I looked at him, my breath hitching. Paris? I asked. We have unfinished business, Sterling said. Last time you were there, you were left crying at Terminal 2E. You never saw the Eiffel Tower. You never ate a croissant on the Seine. He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. I want to rewrite that memory, Savannah. I want you to go back to that airport. But this time, you're not walking out alone. You're walking out with me. And you have a return ticket. Tears pricked my eyes. Not tears of sadness. Tears of gratitude. You'd do that? I asked. I'd go to the moon for you, he said simply. Besides, I hear the shopping is better when you're not paying for your sister's debt. I laughed. It felt good to laugh. I looked out at the ocean. I thought about the woman I used to be. The Savannah who was afraid to say no. The Savannah who thought her worth was measured by how much she could give to others. She was gone. In her place was a woman who knew her value. A woman who had walked through the fire and came out holding the match. Let's go, I said. But on one condition. Name it. When we get to the airport, I smiled, we stop at the duty-free. I need to buy some perfume. And I'm going to pay for it with my card. Sterling grinned. Deal. I leaned my head on his shoulder. The nightmare was over. The family who betrayed me was a distant memory. I had my justice. I had my fortune. But most importantly, I had my peace. Grandma was right to lock the money away until I was 40. She knew I needed time to grow a backbone. She knew I needed to learn the hard way that you can't buy love, but you can certainly pay for freedom. I picked up my pen and wrote one last line in my journal: the best revenge isn't seeing them suffer. It's living so well you forget they exist. Thank you so much for listening to Savannah's story. I am truly grateful for your time. If you made it all the way to the end, comment the letter A below. This lets me know you are one of the special ones, the people who appreciate deep stories and justice. If this story touched you, or if you've ever had to cut off toxic family members, share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And don't forget to check out the other videos on the channel for more stories like this. See you in the next one.